the Black Critic Guy, and before any of you type in the comments, yes, I understand this is a kimono and it's from Japan, has nothing to do with China, but I just felt like wearing this, and since I was doing that whole karate swordplay thing in the beginning, I just wanted to wear it throughout the review. But that's beside the point, because I'm here today to review the Chinese martial art classic, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Now, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon actually tells two main stories that become intertwined. The first one being about a Wudang swordsman by the name of Li Mumbai who is seeking revenge against Jade Fox, the person responsible for his master's death, as well as telling the story of a woman by the name of Jen, who is the daughter of a very prestigious governor but wants to live life free and live it her own way. Their paths in the film end up colliding, and Li Mumbai, seeing the potential that Jen has to become a really great warrior, asks Jen to become his apprentice so that he can teach her his ways and to walk down the good path, while Jen continuously refuses his offers and still wants to live the life that she wants to live. Now, this foreign film was requested by one of my subscribers, the Cartoon Man 13, and besides a few clips here and there over the years, I never fully watched Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and I honestly have no real reason as to why. I've heard so much about it over the years. People have praised this film constantly and said it's one of the greatest martial arts films ever made, and the director Ang Lee has gone on to make some incredible movies and a few duds that we don't need to talk about. So what do I think about this supposed cinematic marvel, and does it still hold up 15 years later? Well, I really enjoyed watching the film. As for whether or not it still holds up, we'll get into that a little more later. This movie had great cinematography, one of the few things that still holds up about the film. From its action scenes to just the shots of the land, it looks freaking gorgeous. There's this one shot in the film where they're in like this bamboo forest. Ooh, that looked beautiful. And kinda sorta tying in with the cinematography were the action sequences. Not only were most of them really well shot and focused on the action, but they just looked like a whole lot of fun, and they were really exciting to watch. There were some fights here and there that were a bit slow and really dated, but that didn't change the fact that I did enjoy most of the fight scenes. And that might be due to the fact that the choreographer for most of the action was this guy, Yuen Wu Ping. Now, that name might not sound familiar to you, but his work speaks for himself. Not only has he directed and choreographed some of Jackie Chan's most famous films like Drunken Master, but he also has choreographed The Matrix and Kill Bill Volume 1. Straight up, if you want some kick-ass action in your film, you gotta hire this guy. And I don't know why he hasn't been awarded like an honorary Oscar for his badass choreography skills. Like, give this guy an honorary Oscar. If anybody earned it, he most certainly did. In fact, scratch that. Where's Angry Joe? Give that guy a badass seal of approval. I found both stories really interesting and engaging, with good resolutions for each one of them. And one thing that I really loved and appreciated about the stories in this film, and the film in its entirety, is that it sort of bucks the trend when it comes to martial arts films by focusing more on the female perspective of the story. In most martial arts films, it always follows the stereotypical male hero who's like this kung fu master, comes into a city, saves everybody, and that's the end of the story. But you don't really ever get to see a female's perspective on the story. In fact, a lot of female characters are pushed to the wayside in martial arts films. In this film, the female characters take the center stage. They are the main focus, and it's actually the guy that is more secondary. He comes in now and again, but he's not really the main focus. That in turn brings me to what is arguably one of the best qualities of this film, and that's its characters. All of them are really fleshed out, three-dimensional, really interesting, engaging, and have strong relationship development. The main character, Jen, played by an actress whose name I can't really pronounce correctly, but is the same badass chick from Rush Hour 2, is such a fully realized character who defies social norms. In this era of China, a woman's role was the role that was given to her. If she had to be married to some guy, that's the role she has to play, and she can't make any fuss about it. In this film, she wants to defy that. She doesn't want to marry some rich, snooty guy. She wants to go live her life, be free, be a warrior. And I really love seeing that type of character in a martial arts film. She doesn't let her gender define her or even hold her down. She was meant to be free. And she has a really interesting and dynamic relationship with this desert bandit that she met during her travels. And I thought it was really interesting. They spent a long time developing this relationship, and I'll talk about that a little later, but I actually really like this time that they spent with each other. It doesn't feel like a sporadic relationship. It was actually built up very well, and you do kind of feel a connection between them. Lee Moon-bai, played by Chow Yun-fat, who is arguably the most recognizable actor in the film, was a pretty good role. I mean, out of all the characters in the film, he was the most cliche, you know, this badass swordsman who's trying to avenge his master. We've kind of seen that in other martial arts films as well. But he has a very interesting story, has very good development, and has a really strong relationship with Shu Lien. In fact, I would say that not only is Shu Lien the most interesting character in Lee Moon-bai's story, but is actually the main character of Lee Moon-bai's story. I mean, she gets the most focus of that story. You kind of follow her journey. You learn about her and her relationship with Lee Moon-bai and why they don't really end up together. It's not like this whole will they, won't they, oh, come on, just get together. It's not that type of bullshit. There's actually a really deep reason as to why they're really hesitant to express their feelings. And it really ties back in to Chinese culture. But regardless, you still root for them and you want them to find happiness with each other. But that's not to say that this cinematic marvel doesn't have a few faults of its own. The first one being is that some of the fights in the film look really silly nowadays. Maybe back in 2000 it looked impressive and amazing and something new, but seeing it now in 2015 it just hasn't aged well, especially when characters would literally leap from one building to another, seemingly gliding or flying to another building. Hell, they don't even like make the kind of thing. They just kind of, and it just looked ridiculous. It felt like I was watching a Saturday morning cartoon. That's how silly it looked. And it would just take you out of the moment, especially after like an epic throwdown, after the fight's done, just to see them jump away like that. Oh, come on, come on. The pacing in the film was quite slow in some parts, particularly in the beginning and the desert scenes. Now, I did talk about the desert scenes earlier, and I said I did like them because they really focused on building the relationship between Jen and Bo. But they did drag on for quite some time, to the point where I felt like we were watching an entirely different movie. And lastly, there were some side characters that I personally felt like were unnecessary to the story, and there were some side stories that I felt like weren't completely resolved. This is one character, I have no idea what his name is, but he shows up in the beginning, and apparently he plays like a role in the I have no idea what he is. I think he's like a bodyguard, but I was just watching the film and I saw him at the end. I'm like, where have you been and what have you done in this film? You've really not served a point. You felt like a really useless character, so why even have him? Just take him out of there. But overall, despite its faults, I still really enjoyed watching Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And although I wouldn't say it's one of the best martial arts films I've ever seen, I will say that it is one of the most unique martial arts films I've ever seen. And that's why I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I think that it is definitely worth watching, especially if you're a fan of Chinese martial arts films. But anyway, what did you guys think of this film? Did you really enjoy it? Did you get a kick out of it? Did you find it really boring and dull, and you just didn't like how cheesy the action scenes were? And let me know, what is your all-time favorite film from China? Comment below and let me know. And stay tuned, my next foreign film review will be coming from another Asian country. So, be on the lookout for that. And if you would like to be a part of the Black Critic crew and not miss out on a single awesome video on this channel, please hit that subscribe button below. Like this video if you really enjoyed it. And I'm 21 the second, the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube.